We're going to welcome today Shireen Fernandez from Queen Mary University for our Careers in Geography Pathway groups. Over to you, Shireen.
Great, thank you so much, Jan. I just want to check with the students. If you can see my screen, which is my presentation, can you just let me know in the chat? Or you can raise your hand as well, just so that I know that you can see my screen, so my presentation. So Finley can see it, excellent. Anybody else, can you see my presentation? You can pop your hand up if you can. Paris, thank you so much.
I should think we can all see it. I can see it, Shireen.
Okay, fine.
So I would think they all can now.
Excellent. Okay, great. So welcome. Oh, I should say thank you so much for inviting me to this talk. So I'm Shireen Fernandez, and I'm a lecturer at Queen Mary, where I teach geography. So the title of my talk today is Thinking About Geography a Little Bit More, and I've called it Crayons, Cities and Coasts. There's more to geography than that. And that is because often when people ask you, well, you know, what do you do? And I say geography, they ask me if I study earthquakes or volcanoes or coasts or if I do colouring in and so on. And so I really wanted today to show you that there is a different dimension to geography, especially in Queen Mary. And also I want to talk to you a little bit more about what you can do with geography post your degree. So a little bit about me. So I studied geography, so a BA, which means that I took the human geography route for my undergraduate degree at Queen Mary from 2008 to 2011. So I'm actually teaching where I did my degree. And after I graduated, I worked for a little bit in journalism and then the charity sector. And then I decided to do something called Teach First, where I became a primary school teacher in a school in Tottenham. So after 2 years of that, I decided I wanted to go back into academia, which is basically, you know, studying and researching a topic which I found very important. And then I completed a PhD, which basically requires me to write 100,000 words, conduct research and fieldwork on a particular topic. And the topic that I looked at was national security policies which impact Muslim communities. So that's a little bit about me. So now we're going to think about what is geography. Now, if you are familiar with menti.com, if possible, you know, you can use menti.com to access the slides after, or I will post these to you or email them to you if you find them useful. So I want to start off with a little bit of interaction from you all. So feel free to raise your hands, unmute yourself, or use the chat. But I want you to think about this image here. And what is geographical about this image? So spend some time just thinking about this, but I really want to hear from you all. What is geographical about this image from the Black Lives Matter protest? And this is from this past summer. So take some time now, and if you want to, you can unmute yourself or put your hand up or post it in the chat, but I really want to hear from you all. What is geographical about this image here? So what does this image tell us about geography? Do you think it's related to geography, or perhaps maybe it isn't? Maybe you think, well, actually it has nothing to do with it. But I really want to hear from you. Do you think that this image is geographical? And if so, what is geographical about this particular image from Black Lives Matter? So again, you can use the chat function, you can pop your hand up, let me know. So we have 3 images. Again, really want to hear from you all what you think is geographical about this particular image. When I show you this image of Black Lives Matter protest, do you think of geography at all? Does geography cross your mind as a subject? Do you think it is something that we can study as geographers?
students, you should all be able to unmute yourself. So please answer Shireen's question or pop it in the chat if you don't want to speak.
So I don't mind going first, just to give you a bit of an indication. So as part of what we do at Queen Mary, we think about what protests mean and how protests shape our everyday environment and our interactions with our society. So with Black Lives Matter in particular, we saw how public spaces became transformed as sites of key change, of mobilization, that we wanted to see change happen. And the way that that happened was through mass protest, not just in the UK, but obviously in the US, and in different other nations. So as geographers, we're really interested in this connection between space, place, and politics. So what does it mean for protests to take place? What does it tell us about our environments? Does it make a difference where protests take place? So, for example, we think about, well, if this protest took place in a rural area, in a town, would that make more of an impact or less of an impact than if it did in, a city? And I would just want to hear a little bit from you all. Again, do you agree? Do you think that this tells us something else? I'm going to pop over to the next image. And again, the same sort of idea, thinking about what does the vaccine or what does COVID-19 tell us about geography? How, as geographers, can we approach this idea of COVID? So again, I'll give you a couple of minutes and then I may just ask some random students perhaps for their ideas or their opinions. What does this tell us about what geography is? So again, I'll give us a few minutes. How does COVID, I guess, or how does geography, the study of geography, help us understand COVID-19 a little bit better? So all of these images are taken from current lectures and tutorials that we are running in geography right now. Again, thinking about our relationship to space and society. So again, feel free to pop your hand up or use the chat function. So we've got Finley, Alice, Emma, Nusrat, Paris, Sina, and Humaira. So let's hear from one of you. Maybe you can unpack this a little bit. Okay, so in the chat. So how the vaccine has been exported around the world. Absolutely. So thinking about the global efforts of the vaccine, but also how some countries are not being prioritized for the vaccine, right? So we're thinking about inequalities in relation to vaccine distribution, inequalities which arise when, one nation decides to hoard vaccine supply. So that is known as vaccine sovereignty. When one nation decides that, in order to gain power, they are going to decide who gets the vaccine, what nations get the vaccines, and so on. And especially if you have been thinking about, the role of geography and development when it comes to things like, structural adjustment plans. I think you may do that in A-level geography, but again, thinking about how nations really use vaccines as a bargaining power. So Sona saying the policies and how each country responds to COVID, absolutely. So for example, the fact that we went into lockdown is an indication of how our nation responded to COVID, but also it fundamentally changed our geography, right? So one of the ways that it changed our geography is that we had to all of a sudden be confined to our homes. We weren't allowed out into public space. If we did, we were only allowed out, if it was distance by 2 meters and so forth. So COVID really is geographical in its reach and its understanding. And to be honest, if we think about, global health approaches or we think about solutions to COVID, we really need to take a geographical approach to it because as we know, the virus transmutes, it becomes more severe. The more that you become, close together and so forth, globalization has aided the dispersal of, the virus and so on. So we really need to have a geographical understanding of this. And this is just one example of what we teach and what we learn about in geography at Queen Mary. Now, the last image is Black Panther. So Black Panther, if you haven't seen it, is part of the Marvel series. It's a fantastic film. But again, I want you to think about if you have seen it, so hopefully you have seen it, What does Black Panther tell us about geography, or how as geographers do we approach the film Black Panther? So if you have seen the film, pop your hand up just so that I get an indication of who has and who has not, because otherwise it doesn't really help. So if you have seen the film, pop your hand up. Nobody here has seen Black Panther. Oh, Hamera, excellent. Hamera, can you maybe tell us a little bit about what you think is geographical about Black Panther at all? So for those of you who haven't seen it, Black Panther is a superhero movie based on the fictional place called Wakanda. So Hamera, I wonder if you can maybe tell us what is geographical about Black Panther. Can you see geography at all in it? Feel free to pop it in the chat or unmute yourself. Or maybe we can open it up a little bit more to thinking about what does film, so the inequality in the world. Excellent, Humera. So Black Panther was all about how this place called Wakanda has got lots of rich resources. You know, it's resource rich. It is protecting itself from, you know, colonialism, from colonialists and so forth. And the external representation of Wakanda is one of destitution, one of poverty. But, you know, behind this facade is a very rich nation and so forth. But as Humera said, the whole premise of the film is about the inequality in the world which exists. And in geography, we often think about how movies, how TV shows represent the world, and how as geographers we can approach it to really critically dissect what is being said. So that's just an example of what we do and what you can do. So especially if you're thinking about going into journalism, into a career in media and so forth, geography really does help you make those connections to understand the politics of representation. So now I just want to hear a little bit from you all again. So what part of geography would you say that you are interested in? So again, feel free to pop your hand up or unmute yourself or pop it in the chat. But I really want to know, is there anything in geography that you think, actually, I'm quite interested in this? So it could be physical, it could be human, you know, again, totally up to you. But is there one, I guess, aspect that you are really, really interested in? Or should I say, is there a geographical issue that you are particularly concerned about? So climate change, for example, you know, waste and resources. So again, really interested to hear from you all. So what part of geography are you interested in, if at all anything? So again, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can pop it in the chat. So Alice saying human geography, especially regeneration. Absolutely. So thinking about how spaces and places become regenerated in order to improve an area, so to speak. But what does that say to our communities and so forth? So what happens to our communities if these spaces are being regenerated? So communities get pushed out because house prices increase and so forth. That's super interesting. Thank you. So Paris saying the human side, so development, so thinking about development geography, absolutely. So I wonder if there's a particular side of development geography that you're interested in, but that's great. So Emma saying, so globalization and also intersectionality. So I'm assuming you're referring to identity, so thinking about intersectional identities, which is what we cover in our first lecture. So our first course, first year course, which is called Global Worlds, really looks at this question of globalization and looks at intersectionality and how we should understand and approach globalization from an intersectional perspective. So understanding that our identities are made up of multiple factors, so our gender, our race, our sexuality, our abilities, and so forth, and how that all comes together to dictate how we engage with our urban societies, our spaces, our towns, and whatever. Excellent, really, really great to hear what you're all interested in. So I'm going to tell you a little bit now about what we do at Queen Mary. So we have a number of different programs. We have Geography BA, which is the the bachelor's program where you will do more human geography, but you have the allowance to do physical geography too. So you will pick up some physical geography modules as well if you are interested in that. So if you're not quite sure what type of geography you want to do, you can opt for the BA in geography, and that then allows you, it gives you a nice mixture of different modules that you can do, which we're going to look at very, very shortly. We also have human geography, which is just straight human geography for those who are interested in it. And then we also have geography BSc, which again allows you to focus on physical geography, but you can pick up elements of human geography too, but you'll predominantly be looking at physical geography modules. We also have combined degrees, which means that you can combine your geography degree with another program, and the program that we combine ours to is business management. So again, if you're still a little bit unsure, lots of people who are interested in development geography or economic geography often feel that they would also like to do some sort of business studies or economics. So we have the geography with business management degree that you can also do, which allows you to do both. If you are really, really interested in pure physical geography or more environmental science, we then have an environmental science program and also the environmental science with business management. Now, again, if you have any questions for me, please do let me know and pop it in the chat, and I will come to them shortly. So some of the things that we do at Queen Mary is that we love to ensure that our teaching reflects reality, that the teaching reflects the research that we do. And one way that we do that is that through the research that we conduct, we ensure that we incorporate all of that into the teaching and the different modules. So there are two examples here. One is called the London Living Wage. So Professor Jane Wills, when she was at Queen Mary, she campaigned for all workers to receive what was known as the London Living Wage, and this has now been adopted as a local policy, that London now has a London Living Wage, and that was spearheaded from Queen Mary, which shows the impact that our research has on wider society. And one of the most latest research topics that we are looking at is the impact of WhatsApp on everyday life in India, and that is headed by Dr. Philippa Williams. And often she will then use her ideas, her data that she has got from her fieldwork in India on WhatsApp and incorporate it into her modules and her lectures on development and India, which we're going to look at very, very shortly. Another really, really important research project, which has just been taken over, is thinking about emergency food provision and food banks and insecurity and anti-poverty campaigns. So especially in the UK, which has seen a rise in austerity measures, a rise in the use of food banks. Our geographers, especially John May, look at the inequalities which exist within these regions, within our spaces as a result of these policies. And again, thinking about our physical geography and environmental science programs, we have this particular project, which gained a lot of attention, has been subject to a number of BBC television programs, radio shows, and whatever, is on coastal erosion and historic landfill. So looking at the impacts of waste on our societies, on our coastal areas in particular. And then finally here is by Dr. James Bradley, who looks at glaciers and climate change and the impact of frozen soils and the deep ocean. So again, his research reflects the fieldwork that he does, reflects the teaching that he does, and often you will be lucky enough to get an insight into this and to also take part in field trips, which I'm going to talk about very, very shortly. So these are some of the published books that we have, and again, it's really great to see how many books there are on our research, because it shows how diverse our curriculums are. It shows how diverse our teaching is. So it ranges from geographies of peace and war, so thinking about warfare, thinking about migration, thinking about Cuba in particular, to thinking about more academic student texts, which then becomes used across different universities across the country and globally. So what could you do now? So in terms of what we offer you, in the first year of our program, you get to do something called Green London, which introduces you to the relationship between green spaces, open spaces, public spaces, and environmental processes. And what you would be required to do is carry out fieldwork, which is really, really important for your career post doing a geography degree. So especially if you're interested in, doing some sort of research post degree, if you're interested in showcasing your skills, we offer you the opportunity to do research from day one. And I think that's what makes us really unique as a university and as a department. Some of the first year modules that you can do include Global World. So again, thinking about globalization, Reinventing Britain, which is tied to a field trip. So all of you will go on a field trip in your first year, depending obviously on the situation. And in recent years, it's been to Durham and to Liverpool as well, where you get to spend a week or so on a university campus away from London to conduct your own fieldwork and your own research. In the second year, again, you get to choose your modules a bit more. So this is where you decide what type of geographer that you want to be. And the modules that we have are Urban Futures, which includes, again, a field trip to Los Angeles and Vegas, which is always so popular with our students. Otherwise, we have another module called Boston Reworked, the making of a North American city, where again, you get the opportunity to travel to Boston if you are selected. And then again, you have the option to choose what type of geography you want. So you can decide that I want to get into health geography, cultural geography, economic geography, and the types of modules that we have are incredibly diverse. In the third year, you are then required to do something called a dissertation, which is really, really useful because it allows you to conduct your own research on a topic that is interesting to you. And again, it's a really, really key skill to show employers post-university. Again, something that we're going to talk about. So your third year is really dedicated to thinking about what we call the IGS, your dissertation, but you also have opportunities for other field trips, especially so a real field trip intensive programs where you can go to India, for example. If you are doing the contemporary India course, you could go to Mumbai, Malaysia as well. And then finally, New York, which is probably one of the most popular field trips that we offer. So again, going to New York to explore the relationship between nature and the city. So if you are interested, let's have a look here. Would you be interested in going on a field trip if you were to take geography here? So does the field trip aspects of geography excite you? So put your hands up if that is something that interests you about geography. So here is an image of one of our students when they were in Mumbai. Again, getting really engaged with what was happening in her urban areas. So I think here she was delivering lunch to a local workforce, and again, our students really enjoy being immersed with the communities, really enjoy being part of the communities and so forth. So you will get the opportunity definitely to, regardless of whatever year you are in, to take part in a field trip. We also have the option of study abroad program. Again, this is subject to different government policies, but right now we have an international exchange program and also the Erasmus Plus exchange program. So you can choose in your degree program that actually I want to do a year or a semester at a different university abroad, and we will facilitate that for you and we will support you to do so. So some of our students have gone to Australia, they've gone to Malaysia, they've gone to Canada most recently. So really, really great opportunity for you to diversify your experience. And again, it looks fantastic for employers who are interested in seeing the range and the depth of your knowledge and your skills as well. So now I want to focus a little bit on our student accomplishments and what they have gone on to do. So we love in our department to reward our students, especially with the work that they do. So this person here, Tabitha Shell, she recently graduated in 2019, and her research, her dissertation looked at the emotional geographies of breastfeeding. and she looked at the private and public spaces of support and stress. Now, for anybody reading this, you would think, well, what has breastfeeding got to do with geography? I think that's one of the best things about geography, is that it is so it allows you to do whatever you want with it. It's really, really malleable. You can really shift it and change it to adapt to your interest. And she won a prize by the RGS, which is the Royal Geographical Society. I think it was a monetary prize, which was from the Gender and Feminist Geographies Research Group. So again, we love to reward our students with awards. We love to recognise the hard work that they do. And all of these accomplishments have a really, really great impact on your future careers, and looks fantastic for employers too, to show that actually you are not just a studious person, but you are also winning awards. One of our other students, Hamida Khanum, she won another prize for her dissertation, which looks at Bangladeshi migrants, and she took a more economic geography approach, and she is now working as a financial crime analyst. So again, thinking about what geography does for you, she has now moved on to thinking about financial crime and the banking sector. Now, one of our other profiles that I want to talk about very quickly is thinking about the international reach that geography has, and a career that you can really get into is thinking about geography on a more global perspective. So one of our former students, Marjan Noor, he was a geography student, and after he completed his studies, he decided to go back to Bangladesh, where he joined a research institute and is now working for the British High Commission in Bangladesh. So what is really, really great about geography is that it gives you the range, and it gives you a scope, a global scope, which makes you more, I guess, employable for global companies, especially if you are interested in working outside the UK. So it offers you a perspective outside of the UK that you're saying, well, actually, I have a global understanding of the world. I have an understanding of the world which moves beyond the domestic, beyond the UK, which makes me really, really, an asset to your company, an asset to my profession, and so forth. Now, if you're interested in reading a little bit more about the different types of jobs that our alumni get into, please head over to this website here. So it's qmul.ac.uk/alumni/blog, and you will find lots of different types of industries that our graduates have gone on to do, which I think you will find exceptionally useful. So now for the next couple of minutes, I want to sort of turn it to you. I've done a lot of talking now, and I want to focus on all of you and give you the opportunity to not only ask questions to me, but also let's think a little bit about your career ideas, what you want to get into, and thinking a little bit how geography potentially could help you do so. So let's spend a little bit of time now. I will give you maybe about a couple of minutes or so, but I would really encourage you all, if you could tell me, what industry are you interested in? If I was to ask you, well, what do you want to do in 5 years? What would that look like to you? So again, it could be a profession, it could be traveling, it could be anything, but pop it in the chat, or you can raise your hand up and unmute yourself. But we'll go around very shortly. I'll give you about 3 minutes, and we can talk about what it is you are interested in doing. So I'll give you 3 minutes to do so, and then we will come back together. So feel free to pop it in the chat. So again, thinking about what is it that if I asked you, what do you want to do in 5 years? What does that look like to you? So let's spend a little bit of time now thinking about your careers, and in particular, how geography could help that. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do so. So again, use the chat function. Pop it in the chat, raise your hand up. I want to explore a little bit now about what you feel like you want to do. That's totally fine if you're not sure. We'll go around and we will ask you. So possibly urban development. Excellent, Alice. So Alice, can you maybe expand? What type of urban development are you interested in? Is it town planning, for example? Is it, something very particular?
Yeah, I think like town planning, but yeah, as I said, I'm not completely sure yet, but I've done like a work experience in that, and I found it really interesting. So yeah, I want to a little bit more.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about your work experience, Alice. What did you do for your work experience?
So we had to design a building in King's Cross. Not one that was actually going to get built or anything, but yeah.
Oh wow, that's so fun. Urban planning is great. And with geography, what is really important when it comes to urban planning is a module called Geographical Information System, so GIS, which helps you map basically or create these spaces, which I always think is really, really fun. And it's really great to be able to do so. So excellent, Alice. Really, really great to hear your idea of what you want to do. And again, geography doesn't limit you. So if you decided actually today I want to do urban planning and you decide to do geography, geography actually opens up lots of different career options for you if you choose not to do this. Excellent. So anybody else, again, thinking about what is it that you want to do if I asked you in the next 5 years, what is it that you want to do? So really, really interested to hear from you. It doesn't matter if you don't really know. I just want to hear vague interests. So maybe let's hear from Humaira, Paris, Finley, Saina, Emma, Nusrat. Let's have a look. What do you think? What are you interested in? If I asked you what type of career do you want to get into? Excellent. So Emma in Paris now writing it. Fantastic. Charity work or campaigning. Fantastic, Emma. Is there anything in particular, Emma? So you said charity work and campaigning. Anything in particular that you want to focus on in the charity sector or campaigning? Campaigning for what, for example? So Paris saying, I have no clue, to be honest, but probably something that links psychology and geography. Absolutely. So you could, for example, decide that you want to do something which looks at health or global health, for example, which allows you to look at psychology as well, allows you to think about the geographical understandings of psychology, the geographical understandings of health, which I think is so important, especially considering the situation that we are in right now, that we need geographers to really think about solutions to our global health issues. Excellent, Paris. So just to let you know also that Queen Mary has a psychology department as well, which has only just recently opened. So do take a look at that too. So Emma, so you're not really sure, but maybe within different communities, absolutely. So I should say that I had no idea what I wanted to do when I started geography. I only selected geography because I was good at geography and I was very curious about the world. I thought to myself, I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy learning about different cultures and different people. I was always really good at geography. So this is what I want to do. But I had no idea what I was going to do after. And I remember throughout the years, it changed from going into investment banking, so going into banking, and then thinking about, well, actually, I think I want to become a journalist. So my third year, really focusing on journalism. And none of my modules, none of my, my degree never stopped me from pursuing those careers because I could do it because geography allowed me to do so, which I found fascinating. Ultimately, I decided that I was really interested in education and going back into teaching at universities and doing research, which is why I did a PhD. But the idea is that geography does not limit your options, and especially if you do not know what you want to do, but you have a vague idea of actually, I'm really interested in talking about, societies, I'm really interested in thinking about culture, I'm really interested in thinking about communities. Well, actually, geography allows you to do so. It allows you to bring these ideas together, and often we also give you opportunities, whether it's mentoring opportunities, whether it's teaching opportunities, whether it's internships and so on. We really, really encourage our students and we really help shape your career paths as well. So I just wonder if if anybody has any questions to me, whether it's about careers, whether it is about geography, or whether it's about Queen Mary University life or whatever. I'd be really, really happy to answer any questions that you may have. So I know you've had lots of different talks today, and I appreciate that. It's probably been a really, really long day, but I'm really, really happy to answer any questions that you may have about geography, about Queen Mary, about university life, or even about careers. Can you study geography if you don't do it at A level? Yes, so I think that you could make the case for that you are interested in studying geography despite not having a geography A level. However, I think it would be, it depends what type of A levels you have done. So for example, if you have only done sciences and you are doing geography, you may have to write in your personal statement a little bit more why it is that you want to do geography, especially if it's human geography. If it is environmental science, of course, that is totally fine. But I would say that in your personal statement, you just make it really, really clear why you want to do geography. But absolutely, there's the idea that we encourage all different disciplines into our course. Emma, do you do geography? I think I just assumed that everybody here did geography for A level. So one of the greatest things about geography is that it is super interdisciplinary, which means that if you've studied psychology, if you've studied sociology, if you studied politics, that's totally fine. So sociology is fantastic. Sociology really, really links to geography in a great way. So absolutely, it doesn't make any difference. The only difference with geography is that you're really connected and you're really interested in your relationship to different spaces and places. But sociology would really, really work. Thank you so much, Emma, for your question. Does anybody else have any other questions that you may be interested in or want me to answer? It could be about careers, it could be about geography, it could be about Queen Mary. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Remember, the field trips are a really, really exciting part of geography that it really encourages you to we really encourage you to travel, really encourage you to explore different areas outside of the UK, that we really like to link our students to cities and regions in the global south. So especially if we're doing things around development geography, political geography, and so on, we really want you to get a flavour of what it is like, that it's not just about studying geography through textbooks or lectures, but actually physically going to these spaces and these places. And we really try to encourage all our students to apply for our field trips, and there is also financial assistance to do so as well. So just to ensure that we are an inclusive department, that we are ensuring accessibility for all our students to do so. So any other questions did you have? No? Okay. Well, Jan, I think I don't think there are any other questions from our students today.
Okay. Can I just ask, Mike, are you there? Mike might have a few questions.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you today.
Yeah. Sorry, I joined in later from a
okay.
meeting. Shireen, glad to have actually sort of got to meet you. And thank you for your input, because I think a lot of what you were saying sort of gels very well with the kind of A-level we're doing, which is the edXL spec, which is a very kind of geopolitical kind of specification. And there's lots of the issues that you touched on are some of the issues that they would encounter, particularly in their second year of study. So I'm glad you sort of very passionately brought this across, and I'm just sorry that there weren't more students to actually listen in on the talk, because in fact you've made me want to actually come back and do a little bit of geography as well, which is brilliant. I'm also glad there's a student here, Emma, who I haven't got to meet actually, but she sounds like a really passionate geography student, and I only wish she was doing geography. But good on you for actually attending. But there's also I think all the others are my students, so they certainly I will pick this up in class as well.
Yeah, so I should say that I'm the lecturer who teaches on geopolitics. So I look at the relationship between space and politics, especially we think about the world post 9/11, the world as a result of terrorism. So we really try to get our students interested in current affairs, in current issues, and we don't shy away, I should say, from teaching difficult subjects, that we actually encourage it. We love to promote critical thinking with our students, and we often try to expand the curriculums that you have in your A-levels and to adapt it to our degree programs. So, you know, it's really a great school or a great discipline to be able to learn whatever it is that you want, whether it's economics, whether it's culture, whether it's sociology. We really try to encourage all different types of topics. I'm going to pop my email into the chat as well. So if any students want to contact me after this session, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, whether it is about geography. If there is something in your geography lessons that you want to maybe discuss a bit further, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it.
Oh, brilliant.
Great.
Okay, let's just see if any more students got any questions for Shireen before she leaves. Make the most of it now.
But as I said, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. I think that there is a lot of misconception about what geography is. It is more than crayons. It is more than learning about volcanoes and earthquakes and so forth. But actually, we're really, really interested in society and how to appreciate society and how to really think through these really complex issues that we're faced with, but we take a geographical approach to do so. So again, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, and hopefully we will establish a partnership with your college and our department where you can actually get an insight into what studying geography looks like, at a university level, and hopefully we can see what we can do there.
Yeah, I would just want to say thanks for that offer there, Shireen. I think we've had, perhaps not in the recent past, but certainly a little way behind. There have been quite a number of students that have come from City and Islington College to your place. And I know one, for example, Vin, I'm not sure if you know Vin, she has come through to do open days at our college. And she speaks glowingly of Queen Mary. So, I think you're sending out some really passionate geographers there. I'm very, very happy to sort of, make concrete the links that we have. I have spoken to Kate Amos before.
Yeah, so she's left now, so I've taken over that role.
Oh, is it you that's replaced her? Oh,
yeah,
right.
Okay. No, well, just for the interim, I'm the academic lead, so I take over the academic side of the stuff. But for now, we're just replacing her in a few weeks, I think. But we are big fans of City and Islington at Queen Mary. Big fans of City and Islington and our geography department. And I really do want to establish these links with your students because I think that you have so much to give us. Your experience, it's been so nice to have your students with us. So if we can create some more concrete relationships, I'd be more than happy to do so. And again, I'm always available via email to answer any questions that you may have, even if it is to talk through, well, I don't do geography, I haven't done geography as an A-level, but I want to do it potentially for my degree program, and I'd be more than happy to guide you through personal statements and so forth if that helps.
That's brilliant.
Great.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, I guess it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Shireen. That was very passionate about your subject. You can tell that. So, yeah, hopefully students got a lot out of that. And as you say, they can email you with any other questions. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for giving up your time for us.
No problem. Thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.